Hey guys, so I am back, I'm gonna say new to me show, even though this came out in 2023, but um, it is called Rabbit Hole, and this is the type of show that I tend to love watching, um, because it's really just I mean, this is specifically um what do you call it? More of a conspiracy um, show. It really does goes down, uh, I guess pun intended, but not really pun intended, a rabbit hole of conspiracies. Um, and I mean, at the heart of it is really just crime in general, and that's what I tend to like watching because most of my shows tend to be crime related, and so, but I really do enjoy watching these sort of crime, conspiracy theorists, like conspiracy shows. Because I always enjoy trying to figure out who it is, um, even if I might not always be right about it. But today I'm only gonna do episodes one and two. There's eight episodes in total, so but each video, I'm gonna just do two because I think it'll be easier that way to try to do two. So, um, but yeah, like I said, I'm gonna do episodes one and two today. The pilot, and then episode two, called at any given moment. Um, and the what I'm noticing, especially in episode two, is that these tend to um go back and forth between um the present and um, 1981 specifically, when the main character John Weir was about six or seven, and so yeah, so basically we're introduced to John Weir, who, like I said, is our main character, and he's played by, excuse me, Kiefer Sutherland, um, and it follows him being set up for a crime he didn't commit. Um, Now, there are other characters that tend to stay within the show, um, for either all or most of the episodes. Outside of Kiefer Sutherland's character John, there's Meta Golding's character Haley Winton, Enid Graham's character Josephine Jo Maddie, who plays an FBI agent, or whose character is an FBI agent. Um, Rob Yang, who plays Edward Hom, and the intern, Walt Klink, who plays the intern. They're in all eight episodes, supposedly. Yeah, it looks like they're all those five characters are in every single or every single episode. Um, and then there is Charles Dance's character, Dr. Ben Wilson, who IMDb states that he's in all episodes, but episode one, he's not in episode one. And he gets a credit only, so I guess maybe for him he still got paid for that first episode, even though he wasn't technically in it. But and he's gonna come up in episode two because he's in episode two for sure, and it's gonna be a doozy, so to speak, about who he's connected to and all that. But yeah, so far I'm sold on this one. I think I don't know if like Kiefer Sutherland is. unintentionally being funny, or he tries to imbue some sort of humor into um, his his characters he plays, whether in a movie like say The Lost Boys, because he was kind of funny in The Lost Boys. I'm not gonna lie, because I mean, I know that was like 30, 40 odd years ago at this point, but he was a little funny in that movie. I'm not gonna lie. So, but that's I mean, in stuff like big blockbuster movies like this, like The Lost Boys, or I know he was at 24 for I think either dang near a decade or almost a decade. But I'm not sure if because I haven't watched that one, so I'm not sure if Jack Bauer was um you know if he infused humor into that role at all. But yeah, I'm just seeing that that was on from 2001 to 2010, so that was 9 years of his life. So I'm like, oof. Well, no, it's only 8 seasons. I guess maybe um I don't know why they weren't 9 seasons, but um maybe anyways, I'm getting off topic. But yeah, so I mean, he's actually pretty hilarious in this. So I mean, I always like everything that Kiefer Sutherland is in. So I'm always entertained. He always shows up and does his job, and that's what I really like. That's why I love watching him, because he does what he needs to do. And you can tell that he loves what he does. So he just loves everything that he does, and it's really, really evident. And you can tell that he got his love for acting from his father, uh, Donald Sutherland, and may he rest in peace, because I know he recently died in the last like 6 months to a year or so. Um, but you can tell that he got what he loved to do within acting from his dad, because his dad is a phenomenal actor too, or was. I'm sorry, he was a phenomenal actor. So, and I always enjoyed Donald Sutherland and whatever he did too. Um, but anyway, I mean, everyone does. I mean, it's not just him either. Meta Golding does a really good job. I mean, I don't know her from many things. I know her from her short stint on Criminal Minds, when if you watch Criminal Minds, JJ had left to be on maternity leave for a little bit, and so she did JJ's job for a little bit on that show. And then I think I'm pretty sure she was in a few of the Hunger Game movies. So I mean, her role in that was to me, very small. So she didn't do too much. So I mean, I'm only going off of base really what I saw with Criminal Minds, and then obviously this. But in both cases, I think she was doing a really good job, and she did it. So it's not just Kiefer Sutherland, but um, I think this is really. I really like this show, because I think it's um it's written really pretty good, and it's I know with TV shows they tend to not have like a singular um director, especially if it's long standing, like say Law and Order SVU, or even any of the Law and Order franchises or shows, um and stuff like the Chicago um one Chicago world with like Med, PD, and Fire and all that. So I mean, I'm not entirely sure, because I haven't looked it up, but um, the directing is, I think, it is good here too, despite maybe it having, potentially several different directors. Um, but yeah, it's just anyway. So getting into the pilot. Um, The episode starts off with our main character, John Weir, and going to what I assume is a Catholic church, because that's the only instance where I know of that people go into a confession sort of. I don't want to call it a booth because I'm not sure what that is. I assume there's a specific um, name for that, but I don't know what it is. But that confession sort of booth, um, and he's basically trying to confide in this priest, um, and trying to make sense of something that has happened. And then after that sort of scene, it jumps to the weeks before. Um, and basically he John works as a sort of consultant to the 1% of the 1% of the 1%, essentially. And I think I'm pretty sure New York City. I mean, he didn't necessarily state it, but I mean, I assume New York City. And um, basically, he helps to make problems go away, or try to create sort of optics that go in favor of like another company, or of a company that employs him. Um, so he has a friend named Miles Valance. Sorry, I was going to call him Vance. Please don't mind me. Um, but he has a friend named Miles Valance, and who um, is either like a CEO or like a very higher up person at Arta Analytics. And basically, what Miles asks him to do is to um, help a company named Lux Brand, because there's very loud rumors, supposedly, of them using child labor to make their high end products, like clothing and furniture and all that stuff. Um, so Lux Brand is claiming that a rival company called the Banamore Group, had floated this around to tank their stocks and then eventually buy them up. Um, and so basically, they want to have like uh, they want to have John basically float this idea that the Bannermore Group, is in bed with the Treasury Department, and John has this idea that to do that, they make Dana Heinrich, the CEO of the Bannermore Group, and Edward Hom, a U.S. Treasury agent, be pictured together, um, looking like they're in business. And so there's an FBI agent, Joe Natty, who is telling him, once he gets out of the meeting with Valance, that name, I'm so sorry, name's gonna kill me if I don't know anything. Um, but yeah, so she's trying to tell him, don't take this job. Um, and I'm guessing there's some sort of investigation, or looking into of Miles Balance. Um, um, and she's, I guess, knows things that could be considered damaging if John tries to, work with him. Um, but he declines. Um, so essentially, what they eventually do is one of the people working with John, like on his like at his company, um, he fiends he fiends like he's a cab driver, and when another one of John's employees, uh, quote unquote, breaks down a tractor trailer, um, in the middle of the street that the CEO of the Brennemore Group almost exclusively follows every single day to work. The employee who is feeling like he's a cab driver, um, picks her up as a passenger, and um, ends up driving her along the route that would get them to the hotel that the U.S. Treasury agent, um, Ham, is at, and because he's in town, because normally he's in DC, right? So he's in town for however long, and every morning at like 8:15 sharp, um he goes down to his ready and waiting car to get picked up, and the car gets chewed away by the fake driver of the with or fake cop, who is the same person who drove the tractor trailer. I'm not, I'm sorry, I didn't get these people's names, so that's why I'm like kind of saying it the way I am. But so the guy who was driving the tractor trailer is playing a fake cop, and um, tells the guy who was supposed to pick up Ham to not sit there waiting for Ham. So that way, the guy who's playing a taxi driver can pick him up, or um, can stop there and um, force the CEO to get out of the car, and so the CEO goes across the street to wait for another taxi. And so I the third person employed by John is also who happens to be a woman. So she is quote unquote walking these dogs, as opposed to, you know, for people as clients. And so she is walking the dogs, and the CEO is too far away from Ham, and so the woman, fake walking the dogs, kind of in a roundabout way, forces the CEO to kind of back up and move closer to Ham, and so the fake cop drops an envelope with uh, the Brennemore Group written on the envelope. And so Ham eventually picks it up and gives it to the CEO, and they end up getting pictures of that happening. Um, so that's the whole thing, the whole spiel about what happens and how they get the pictures of them being indecently, not indecently exposed, but and like quote unquote indecently talking to one another when they're not supposed to be, like basically they're in bed together, um and um so after all that happens, um John looks into um, a woman named Haley Martin. I think is what her last name is. Winton. Sorry, I don't know why I came come up with Martin, but so Haley Winton, he had met the night before at a bar when he was doing a sort of quote unquote job for a client um, at that bar, and um, the after all that, they end up going to her hotel room and having sex and all that. So he the next morning when he was just about to leave, he gets paranoid and is thinking, she's trying to get evidence of him doing something wrong, um, and so the next day after that whole Brenna Moore group and making it look like they're in bed with some the U.S. Treasury agent, he asked his staff to look into her, um, but everything supposedly looks normal because she's supposedly a lawyer, does very well for herself. Um, but he just has a bad feeling because the last time he saw her was in Valence's uh, neighborhood where his office is. Um, so what he ends up doing is he decides to go confront her, and so she basically says she swiped right on him on a dating app, and that's how she found him at the bar. Um, they both then see a news report of John's face stating that he is a suspect in the murder of Edward Palm. So she hits him in the throat. He runs away, and a cop on a horse chases after him. And this is clearly, a deep fake video of John's face driving in a car that Ham got into. And it's the same car that John has noticed was following him for the last several days. So John then tries to go to his office, and as he's across the street and about to make his way into the office, the top floor, which is where his office is in the building, it blows up, um, which then spurs him to make his way to Miles Valence's office and demands to know what's going on. While he's in Miles's office, the phone's ringing, um, pings are coming in on his computer, left, right, and center, and eventually, Miles picks up the phone, and there's another thing that happens when Miles goes out onto the sort of terrace slash balcony, and John turns the computer around, sees a notification saying coming from an anonymous person saying, "Do it now." And next thing you know, Miles jumps off the balcony. Um, and the last sort of scene we see of John is he's going to a house um, in sort of a secluded area in away from the city, and we see that Ham is alive and well, but tied up in his house. Uh, okay, so this leads into episode 2, where it starts off in a flashback, and this is where we more so get the flashbacks a lot more, because I think there was like maybe one or two flashes. Um, in episode one, but this is where he more so gets the flashbacks, because the first scene that we have is it's 1981, um, and John, his parents, I believe his parents were called Ben and Judy, but let me just double check that real quick. Yeah, Ben is his father's name, and then is it Claire? Yeah, I think it's Claire, not Judy. I don't know where I got Judy from, because that's what it sounded like when one of the scenes was playing in the flashback. Um, but yeah, so she they're finishing dinner, and they're playing the sort of game that morphs into his father asking John to name either cities or capitals of the U.S. states or something like that, until the phone rings that his mom picks up. So sometime later, his mom is telling his dad that the phone is making a sort of clicking sound, which sounds to me like you know uh, there's a bug in the phone. So Ben freaks out and basically says, "We're not going to be using phones anymore." So it goes back to present day, where Agent Joe Maddie goes to the scene of the explosion at John's job, and there's someone brought out who's still alive, which happens to be the intern. Um, and basically, she tries to talk to the intern and see what and figure out what he saw. Um, but the detective on scene, Raj, or maybe he's another agent in a different division, but um, tells her to leave, after she tells him something seems weird with the intern, um, because he's the only one that survived, and she wants Raj to do DNA tests on the three charred bodies that were taken out. Um, so as as Maddie is leaving, we see the intern text a private number. "I told him what you wanted me to say." So yeah, he there is a lot of stuff that was going on in my mind in episodes one and two about what's going on. Because I wasn't thinking that his behind was in it in at all, but here he is being suspect as hell. So I mean, anyway, so elsewhere, Haley is is trying to check out our hotel, and as she's about to leave, she's approached by these two quote unquote detectives. Um, and as she's leaving with the two detectives, um, she's approached by a third, who eventually tases her because she's questioning why they're leading her to a car that is, by what she thinks, is a non-standard looking car, for a cop, or even a detective. Um, John comes to the rescue, runs up, claims to be videotaping them, and starts getting everyone else around them involved. Um, Creates a distraction by claiming there's a gun, um, and eventually escape in the car, and he's trying to get answers. So he then takes her to the house that he um, is holding up in. And this is where I realized this is the same house that was the same one in 1981 flashbacks. But in the sort of another flashback, a younger John is with his dad, shooting, I guess, be either real bullets or BB guns or something at cans, and his dad is explaining, you and your mom will be moving away. And we don't necessarily get him saying why exactly they're gonna have to move, but just that it I guess it's needed. But we see that sometime after that, his father has died, and there's a man that shows up at the funeral, that someone that we aren't introduced to necessarily. Like, we get a name, but he tells John, "Your dad um, uh, died fighting for this country," and saying that what uh, John will read in the papers isn't true. Back in the present, John takes Haley into the house, um, and she suggests that they look up the address used for John's fake dating profile, to prove he didn't set it up. Um, and so what he decides to do is he decides to take a hammer out of the refrigerator. Oh, crazy ass. And um, break open a wall that has a laptop in it. Says they only have 15 minutes to use it before they need to unplug it, and they start researching it, everything. So it turns out that um, the email used it's comes back to a company that um, John was a client of, or that was a client of his, I should say, and um, somehow, and maybe I need to go rewatch this scene, but somehow he realizes that his coworkers were the ones that set it up. I'm not sure entirely how he got to that. Maybe it'll be better explained in the coming episodes, but for the time being, it just um I'm not sure how he got to the conclusion that his um coworkers use or set up that profile at all. Um so yeah, that part is a little tricky to me. So I'm gonna have to maybe either rewatch that scene, or hopefully they'll explain it in the next episode or two, because that was just slightly confusing for me. But I mean, that's the only critique I have of the show so far. You know, hey, that is, to me, that's good, because if I have too many questions and concerns and annoyances about a film or a TV show, I quickly stop watching. And this one has me all the way hooked. So, I mean, yeah. Anyways, um, Haley then finally finds out that Ham isn't dead, and that he was just tied up in John's house. Um, so I guess as a result, John decides to let her go. But as he's about to, um, she sees some text message on her phone when John gives it back to her, that he doesn't see her look at, um, and decides to change her mind. um, which tells me that someone is blackmailing her to sort of keep an eye on him so that way um, she can report back to him, whoever's pulling the strings. So next thing we see is John and Haley following Xander Arnaz. Although we didn't necessarily get his name, I just looked it up because I was like, at some point I can't just keep calling somebody random guy or some guy or just without a name. So I looked his name up, but they follow a guy named Xander Arnaz to a restaurant. Inside the restaurant, John pulls or has a waitress spill a beverage onto Arnaz, which would force him to go to the bathroom to clean it up. So John's waiting there in the bathroom for him and starts demanding answers. Um, Arnaz is telling him, the people who set him up are dangerous, and he hadn't necessarily met the main guy pulling the strings, but because he just never, um, he just never met with him in person, and the only way to really kind of get into Valence's data comms to try to figure anything out um, is with his password and his authenticator. Um, and Arnaz is telling him, you got 5 tries, five wrong tries before the whole thing self deletes. Um, Turns out the authenticator was on Valance when he jumped off the balcony of whatever story he was on. So John tells him, "Don't remember that I was here. Forget it," and leaves. So what John decides to do is go into the police station, bareface and all, and try to get the authenticator. So he fakes a call to the lead investigator once he gets inside. That don't even get me started on the police just completely missing him because they had this man plastered on a screen in what I only assume is um, Times Square, essentially, and they don't know that this man is here in the police station, not hiding his face worth a damn. Okay. Anyway, so he calls the lead investigator on Valence's case to get her to leave their desk. Um, Once she leaves, he rummages through her desk and eventually gets the case number off of her computer so that way he can go downstairs to the evidence locker to get it out. He grabs the entire box, and while that all of that is going on, Maddie's watching the intern's place and follows him when he leaves. Maddie eventually makes it to the police station, or because she's following the intern, and this is the same police station that John is at. So once John comes out with the box of the entire evidence collected from Valance after he jumped off, what she locks the doors leading into police station, um, which inadvertently locks in Maddie because she's about to go into the police station completely when she notices John and is about to come back out, but can't because now she's locked in. Um, John and the intern start tussling, um, fighting over this fucking authenticator, and this was hilarious because I'm not gonna lie, that kid was holding his own, and I mean, of course, I was rooting for John to whoop his ass, but he was holding his own for a scrawny little kid. Um, So eventually, Haley hits the intern with the car. John gets the authenticator, and the pair leave. Um, so we get a sort of little flashback for the final scene of episode 2, where a younger John, as his mom is parked, I think at a gas station, he runs away, finds his dad dead, um, on the in the house, supposedly after he kills himself, and that's, that just, that's fucking traumatizing as hell. But anyways, so that's the little last scene of the flashback, like last flashback scene we have, before it goes back to the present, where Haley and John walk in, where and Ham is tied up, and he's really acting really scared, because next thing you know, some guy walks out, um, saying that he's gonna have to, or they're gonna have to, like, start cutting off fingers because the guy won't talk. Turns out, supposedly, it's John's daddy, who seems to have risen from the dead like Jesus did, and I'm like, okay. Um, and his name, actually, the character name in the show is quote unquote Dr. Ben Wilson, but I'm assuming that's just maybe an assumed name, just because he had to take on a new name, because um the only thing I could think of is that when John went to um walked in on his supposed dead dad, um his dad actually got some random man, whether he was already dead or actually alive, and shot him point blank in the face, that um, most of his face was blown off or something, and so that's why they just assumed it was him, because his whole face was gone, and they didn't necessarily. And back in 1981, they weren't really doing DNA tests like that, so yeah. And that's the only way that his dad is risen up from the dead like Jesus, because otherwise, yeah. So anyway, so that was episodes 1 and 2. Oh, here is my prediction, and I sort of made this prediction after I finished episode 1, because I just, like an hour ago, finished episode 2. So I think what could be going on is that I think someone John had, quote unquote, effed over with his antics, because you know, you heard what I said with the whole making the CEO look like she was in bed with the treasury agent, um, pictures, and so someone decided to frame him because for murder, because um, they effed them over. Like he John effed them over so bad that they lost everything. Um and so um and then as a result, they used Miles and Haley to do it. Haley more so being unwittingly using her. and then Miles more overtly using him, like from the jump, um, having coerced him into doing stuff, um, coerced him into asking John to help him with this. Um, but I mean, I think obviously, I'm starting to think that Haley was starting to become a complicit person, while under duress as well. Um, and if it's someone that John screwed over years ago, it was at least 2 years prior, because I don't think like whoever, if it's someone from years ago that John had worked with, or screwed over, that they wouldn't be able to necessarily do all this right away. They need time, to get, money, and to sort of, like, they build to build the money up to be able to pull all this off, because that all that stuff takes money. You can't just do this and then not have any money to actually do this. But I was also thinking, considering the fact that, um, his father, quote unquote, died, but now we see that he really didn't die. Um, Perhaps it was something to do with his father and his non-death, um, and whatever he was trying to expose. Because I think there's something that he was trying to expose all those years ago, um, and Um, so yeah, he was trying to expose it like 40 plus years ago, like 40, 42 years ago. Um, and whatever it was he was trying to expose got him to fake his own death, essentially. Um, so I mean, and maybe it could be both, to be honest. I mean, you never know. It could be both. Like, whatever his dad was trying to expose, John somehow managed to come across them, and he's, screwed them over somehow, and now the person's after John, just like they were after his dad. So I mean, you never know. I mean, it could be both, but without having seen the rest of the episodes and not knowing what could be going on, we'll have to see, how it all unfolds. But I'm loving it so far. I mean, um, Jesus, my phone keeps going off. Anyways, um, let me know what you guys think. If you watched it, and if not, what you guys think of what I've, mentioned so far of the show. But yeah, I love this type of show, and all the more because Kiefer Sutherland is in it, and I think he just, like I said at the top of the video, he does a fabulous job in whatever he decides to do. Um, that to me, there hasn't really been anything that I disliked about any of his projects. Um, so yeah, I mean, let me go to, like I said, let me know what you guys think. And I will, since I have Tuesday off, I might try to watch the next two episodes, either tonight or um Tuesday sometime, and then try to get those next two videos out. But um yeah, and like this video, share it, and then please subscribe.